We are back on Taking Care of Business on News Talk 1180 KERN, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI. Now in Albuquerque, New Mexico on 1000 KKIM and nationwide on the internet through knookmedia.com. So, Clay, what do you think of Pete Peterson?
I think Peterson will do a great job.
I forgot to mention this to our next guest, but I think he knows Pete Peterson, who's running for Secretary of State.
He knew Wayne.
Right. So whether or not Wayne knows him, we'll find out in about 30 seconds.
Sounds like a circle.
It does. It does. The conclusion to the exciting question, does Wayne Root know Pete Peterson? Our next guest is a gentleman we've had on before, a guy who's got to come out of his shell, don't you think? I mean, he's a little withdrawn when he talks.
We'll probably get to ask 2 questions maximum.
then Wayne will be off.
Then the race is on.
The former Libertarian candidate for vice president, author of a great book on Obamacare, and the author of a great new book I can't wait to get into, The Murder of the Middle Class, Wayne Allyn Root. Wayne, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Marty, Clay, how are you?
Good. Do you know Pete Peterson?
Well, I've never met him. I know of him. I know he used to be the Secretary of Commerce, I believe, right?
No, he actually works at Pepperdine. But he said he either knew you or knew of you. I think
he knows of me, I'm sure. We've never met, but he was Secretary of Commerce. I'm looking it up under Richard Nixon. He was Secretary of Commerce.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I just Googled him when you asked me the question.
Oh, okay.
Fiscal conservative, philanthropist, investment banker, served as United States Secretary of Commerce under Richard Nixon.
He's
now the funder of the Peter Peterson Foundation, which he established with a $1 billion endowment. Now, that's my kind of guy.
Well, I'll tell you what, that sounds like a great guy.
He established it with a $1 billion endowment. I got to learn to know Pete Peterson.
I'll tell you what, it sounds like a great guy, but it's not the guy we're talking about.
Oh, it's a different guy. No wonder. Who is Pete Peterson?
He's running for Secretary of State here in California.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
are you sure it's not the same one? Because this guy's, I think he's from California, this Pete Peterson. This guy's not a billionaire, huh?
No. It doesn't sound like it. He's the executive director of the Davenport Institute over at Pepperdine University. But he might be, who knows? But
he might be the same one. How do you know? That could very well be the same one.
Well, listen, considering the fact that I'm talking to a guy who went to school with President Obama and never met him, it could be anything. What do I know?
Well, that's, my new book has quite a few stories. About my times at Columbia University. We both graduated, Barack Obama and I, as classmates, June of 1983. And I think everything that happened at Columbia explains what's happening in America today. Number one, and you got to get the book, Murder of the Middle Class, to get it in detail, but number one is there's no mistake here, guys. There's no coincidence, mistake, fate. Things are disastrous, happening in a disastrous fashion because this is what Obama was trained to do. He's following the plan we learned at Columbia called Cloward-Piven that says you've got to overwhelm the system to take down America, and you overwhelm it with spending, debt, and entitlements, and that's exactly what he's doing. And number two, I never saw him at Columbia, and none of my classmates ever saw him at Columbia. We call him the ghost of Columbia, and it's not that I've ever suggested he didn't go there. I just think he never went to class, and that's the same guy who's president. I'm not suggesting he isn't really president. I'm not crazy. He's president, but he's never acted as president. He's always in a golf course. This guy never was in class at Columbia, never did the work that needed to be done that other students had to do. He thought he was better than the rest of us, and now he doesn't want to do the work of president. By the way, as we make this recording, as we do this radio interview, the Las Vegas newspaper has a liberal Democratic congressman named John L. Smith, a columnist named John L. Smith, who's the biggest Obama defender. And you know what he said today? He said Obama's only slightly more popular than Ebola. He said his presidency is effectively over, and he talks about all the insider information he's gotten from staffers of Harry Reid that indicate everyone in the Democratic Party is so disappointed that Obama is disengaged, disinterested, doesn't care, wants to spend his life on the golf course, no longer cares about being president of the United States. Hey, folks, that's the way he acted at Columbia. Obviously, that's why we never saw him. He didn't care about being a student. Once he got in, he's like a guy who woos a woman day and night. I need her. Oh, my God, I got to marry her. And then when you marry her the next day, okay, I got her. Now let me go cheat on her and find somebody new. That's what Obama is. I got to get into Columbia. Once he gets in, I'm never going to go to class. I'm going to smoke pot and go to Communist Party meetings. And once he becomes president, I got to win. He wins. Okay, now I won. Okay, let me do something else. That's this guy's personality. A, he wants to destroy the country and hurt the country, and B, he'd rather play golf.
Our guest by phone, Wayne Allyn Root, author of a great new book, Murder of the Middle Class. So, Wayne, do you like the segue I gave you to get you off and running there?
Gee.
So I
have a question for
but
Wayne.
Hold on. I got a question here real quick on President Obama and Columbia, okay? Because I did a little research here. There were like 700 students in your pre-law class at Columbia, and he was a poli-sci major, so were you, and there was 150 people in that class. So with that few number of people, nobody remembers him?
Nobody. I'm telling you, the guy is the ghost of Columbia. It's just amazing that a guy who goes on to become president of the United States could leave no footprint of any kind in his college class.
Why?
And so, last year was my 30th class reunion. I went back to Columbia for the reunion, and I tried to find someone in our class who remembered Obama. Actually, I was shocked. I figured, look, if the guy wants to carry out this scam and act like, he really went to Columbia and he knows everybody there, you'd think he would have sent a video. Hey, everyone, your old classmate who's now President of the United States, Barack Obama. I'm here to congratulate everyone on our 30th class reunion. I would have done that. And so I would have probably shut up at that point, because then it would have been very clear he attended school with us. There wasn't a sign of Obama at the 30th reunion. No video. No letter read by a fellow classmate, right? He could have sent a letter with one of his friends that went to school with him. There are no friends. There was no letter read. He's the ghost of Columbia. I couldn't find a person there who ever admitted knowing him in college. And then finally I cornered the guy who I think, Henry Graff, is the authority on presidents and the most honored professor in the history of Columbia, 45 years as the head of the history department and the presidential historian. And he said, Wayne, how great to see you, right? See, that's the way you're supposed to react, right? I followed your career because you're one of my students and you went on to become a vice presidential nominee. Even though it was for a third party, he followed my career and knew everything about me. He follows every politician that was ever in any of his classes at Columbia, and he could spout information on all of them. I said, what about our classmate Barack Obama? He went on to become president of the great United States. And you know what he said to me? Never in my class. His name isn't on any of my sign-in sheets for the students. His name isn't on any of the records to ever having been in my class. And I got to tell you, Wayne, it's impossible to graduate Columbia without going to any of my classes if you're a political science major. So I really have doubts about this guy. That's what he said to me, folks. There's something wrong with the story of the Manchurian Candidate. This guy really is America's first Manchurian Candidate. Something wrong. And I keep saying he graduated, but he did not go to class. So what was he doing in those 2 years? And I keep being nice to him and saying, well, I guess he just got his gentleman's C or D, and he showed up maybe for an occasional final, and that's it. He just never went to class. He was above it all, thought he was better than the rest of us, smoked a lot of pot, went to a lot of Communist Party meetings. I've heard others say the following. He was a member of the CIA, and he was in Afghanistan and Pakistan during those 2 years, and Columbia University signed off on it, and they allowed him to get his degree without going there. I have no idea if you can do something like that, not a clue. But I've heard quite a few smart people with CIA backgrounds say that's Obama's story. That's why you never saw him in class, because he wasn't there.
Well, maybe he used a different name, and I have also heard he came to that school on a foreign student visa.
Could very well be. He did not use a different name. I'll tell you how I know. Because that professor sent me the list of graduates from the day of the graduation. And there on the list, just a few spaces away from each other, because my name ends in R, his ends in O, is Wayne Allyn Root and Barack Hussein Obama. On the list of graduates in June 1983. So there's no question he attended Columbia as Barack Hussein Obama. There's no question he graduated Columbia University. The question is, was he ever there for the 2 years? He wasn't there for 4, by the way. He transferred in after his what would be his sophomore year, so he only was in his junior and senior year at Columbia University, theoretically. But the end result is, was he ever in class, and was he ever actually in New York at the time, or was he off somewhere working for the CIA? I don't know what he was doing, but he's got to be the single most mysterious guy in the history of world leaders.
And all records are sealed.
And all records are sealed, and that's what I keep saying. When people go, oh, Wayne, you're like, liberals love to go, you're a birther, and I go, really? I've never questioned his birth in my entire life, not once on any. I've done 6,000 radio interviews in the last 4 years, 6,000, and not once have I ever mentioned Obama's birth. What I mention is, how come he showed his birth certificate, whether you claim it's real or not, everyone argues about that. He showed it, but he's never presented his college records, ever, because that's where the real issue is. My guess is he was born in Honolulu just like he says he is, and that's why he was able to show a birth certificate. But he can't show his college records because, A, it'll show he wasn't there, or B, it'll show that he got straight D's, which breaks the narrative of being this brilliant guy. And how did he ever get into Harvard Law School with straight D's at Columbia? Or C is the one I really believe. Right at the top, it'll say foreign student. And again, it has nothing to do with the fact he was born in America in Honolulu. It has to do with the fact he was raised in Indonesia with his mother and his stepfather, and it's been proven to attend Indonesian public schools, which he did. You have to give up your American citizenship, or any citizenship for that matter.
Now,
you can only be an Indonesian citizen. He then used that to get into Columbia and jump to the front of the line. I've said that from day one, and some of the most liberal, hateful lawyers who graduated Columbia, who hate every word I say, have either called me or emailed me and said, I got to tell you something. You're a bright guy because you just nailed the President of the United States. I support him. I gave him a contribution. I voted for him. I don't like you, Wayne Root, but you sure nailed it. There's no question he went to Columbia as a foreign student.
Now,
That's
Wayne,
what liberal lawyers have told me from Columbia.
Now, Wayne, when we come back from the break, let's talk about how you really feel about the President.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.